Howdy, howdy. Welcome to the Easy Reefers channel, I think. I'm not even sure anymore. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whatever it is, wherever you are. Welcome back. I have been kind of writing a song. I was all up into planning the video. And I just started to write a song. Ain't much, a little blues ditty. But it's got kind of a cute hook to it. So I'm not going to play the full song with the lyrics because I imagine if I wanted to do any sort of formal debut, I should kind of hold this one in reserve because it's a catchy little tune. But I can play the riffs without singing my little chorus. This is what happens when you start a broadcast right after picking at your face in the mirror in the bathroom. Sorry about the little swollen part there. That's not congenial. I should have just turned the camera the other way. Just played in the background. I don't fucking care. Gotta remember what I was playing. I'm doubling up. That was a variation, and that comes later. I'm steadily forgetting how to play the girl from Impamina. That makes me sad. Anyway. The other way? No, that was a variation. I just went back and forth on it. gift from someone. Got a nice sound to it. There's a song that's so old that you should not have to be told that you're cheesy if you try to play it. Okay, I'm done. Anyways, forgot how to play the girl from Embermina, man. Tall and tan and young and tender, she kinda sounds like jailbait, and if you fuck her, you might get 20 years. Wait, what? But you're in a foreign country and you paid lots of American money, so that song's kind of, I don't know. Anyway, I'm moving on. I've been meaning to make fun of that song on a broadcast for a while. You start singing, it's like, wait, is this guy singing about jailbait? Why do women like hearing this song so much? Why? Like, if you listen to it, it's like, well, that's what my guitar teacher in college. Yes, I had a guitar teacher in college. That's what he told me when he taught me the song. Women love hearing this song. You didn't think I was going to title a broadcast Enlightenment and just get right to it, did you? You know, patience isn't a virtue unless you're quite capable of being impatient. Patience can come from a lot of things. If patience comes from understanding the logical necessity of restraint when it comes to things like ambition, that is patience earned. That is a virtue. And patience comes from complacency or apathy. Can it still be considered virtuous? The answer is no, unless it's in the form of a Guns N' Roses song. The guitar's right there. I apologize for the loogies I've hawked while the camera was over here. I'm trying to go over there for my trash can. I'm gonna move the trash can way over there next time I have to hawk one, because like I was like, oh, like right there, and just, no, that's uncalled for, Sean. Shed a tear when I'm missing you, but I'm still alright to smile. day now. Was a time when I wasn't sure, but you set my mind at ease. But you know, dear, there's one more thing to consider. Said, woman, don't be scared, things will be just fine. You and I just use a little patience.
Such a pretty song. Oh.
Anyways, patience. Learn basic chords on a guitar, and it's an easy song to really get to sound pretty. Now you see, Mr. Guitar Teacher with his fancy jazz chords. Makes me wonder what kind of women he was after. I'm kidding. Kevin Murphy is a perfectly wonderful man. And I'm sure that all the jailbait he's after is perfectly willing. I mean, oh wait. No, seriously, a lot of them little college girls had a crush on the guitar teacher. Oh yeah, he was fighting them off with a stick, and his wife would tease him the fuck about it. And I'm like the oldest fucking student there, you know. So I don't know. I was hanging out with the teachers more than the students. They were all some of the teachers were fucking younger than me. That was awkward. Like they were fresh out of college. I'm like, already should have been out of college. Anyway. Excuse me, I had to be homeless for a while. Shame on me. Alright. Blessed are those who struggle, and blessed are we to be among them. For when they come and lead and guide, we know their motivations. You see, when someone who doesn't struggle, when someone who hasn't suffered and endured hardship and risen from that, not somebody who had to be rescued from that by somebody who wanted to take advantage of them, more than likely. But someone who pulled themselves out of a situation by having faith, either in God, maybe in the potential of humanity, in some way, faith in something that represented an aspect of thankfulness, recognized by God in a way that would require God to strengthen them. And it's not some magical mumbo jumbo. It's the inevitable result of consequence. You see, when someone suffers from a point of pridefulness and is consumed by self-pity, it's because they lack empathy. Now, the strength that God gives you can be seen as your connection to other people, because it is empathy that keeps someone from, instead of wallowing in self-pity, being motivated by their understanding, their empathy, their lack of sociopathy, okay, helps them see their hardships are due to the shortcomings of the world. And you got two choices. You can cry about it, or you can try to make it a better place. Unless you're a sociopath. Unless you don't have some sort of faith that gives you a thankfulness that is essentially, whether or not you define it as such, a recognition of God's gifts. You know, this is not what I thought the broadcast would be about, but oh well. Just random shit occurring to me. Rolling with it. And I want to lean in and finish this fucker off right here, just like it's a mirror. Okay. Can't even help myself. I went in the bathroom for one thing. Wound up just seeing the spot on my face and just going right after it, not even thinking, oh yeah, you went to the bathroom, you know, to relieve yourself so you wouldn't be holding piss in the whole time you were broadcasting. Going in the mirror and digging in your face probably wasn't the smartest thing, dumbass. Oh. Yeah, I'll say it once and I said it once and I'll say it again. One of the healthiest things you can do for your own personal evolution to prevent yourself from becoming a sociopath, to prevent yourself from being narcissistic. You can acknowledge your gifts and your strengths as long as you're aware of your weaknesses. And you won't be able to get any strengths other than that which delusion can maintain unless you have some form of this practice of, oh, that was me being a dumbass. I'm going to analyze what about those actions were in fact really fucking stupid. And maybe I should backtrack a little bit to see what led me down this path of moronity, so that maybe in the future I can avoid these dumb fucking mistakes. But in the meantime, I'm just gonna call myself a dumbass. Good job, dumbass. Friendly, personal, motivating way of saying, try to do better next time. Yeah. Don't give yourself ribbons for trying. We don't need a world full of people who think they can just bullshit about their capabilities instead of actually developing themselves. That's, in a nutshell, what America has been doing for years. It's bullshitting ourselves. You can't just keep cutting education and ignore infrastructure and like, okay, pure sciences, they're cool. I enjoy them. And I'm talking about like astrophysics mostly, quantum physics. Right? It's cool. Don't get me wrong. When I say it's a useless indulgence when society looks as it does today. Useless. As useless as I find combs to be. I mean, really useless. You see, when a society such as ours can't get its basic shit together, why do we need to explore outer space? And you know, that's just a very shallow way of looking at it, but it's pretty fucking hard to argue with. Okay. Like seriously, there's shit we just because we're curious about it doesn't mean there aren't much more important things that smart people especially need to be focused on, and their budgets as well. But deep down, the promotion of space science fiction by Russian writers, Russian producers, Russian actors. It's rather anomalous. Is there any motivation why an imperial war power would be obsessed with space and stuff like that? Well, it's pretty obvious. The technologies, the science, that they need to kill people More and more people. It's hard to motivate smart people to do stupid shit. So it's not all about killing people. It's about exploring. That's the face that I make to say nigga please, because I'm too white to say it all the time. Nigga please. Please. You know what I'd like to ask somebody like Neil deGrasse Tyson? Bill Nye. See, I wouldn't have to ask Obama or Hillary because they cut the fuck out of NASA's budget, and I know exactly why they did it. And I've been trying to explain that for a while. You know what I want to ask Neil deGrasse Tyson? What's the point of learning all this stuff when we're not funding education to teach it to our children anymore? How much money did it cost to detect that gravity wave? How many schools could you have built with that money? A 100? 200? Whole fucking schools? You spent all that money on an inconclusive experiment? Oh, but then, I'm contradicting myself, pretending like I don't know better. Because you don't build something like that to detect a gravimetric wave. You build something like that to detect weapons tests. Now, for that, I'm on the fence about justifying it, If I could build 100 schools, it's not going to do me not much good if all the kids are dead. $100 years. $100 years. Since people died by the millions. And we think Iraq and Afghanistan, a war on terror, qualifies as World War III. Those people are just dying by the thousands. Actually, really, they're only dying by the hundreds. But when a real war breaks out, it's more death than anybody can possibly account for. Nobody knows the number. Humans don't want to know what they are capable of. But occasionally you see the evidence of the reset. Occasionally you see whatever it was that happened 100 years ago. The world will never be allowed to know what the world was like before it happened. And we got our stories, and we got some accurate ones, but the further back you go, the more it bends. And right about the point in which it is logical to consider that history is a matter of conjecture at best, right at the point where generationally about 250 years has passed, at that generational point, the overlapping of eyewitness accounts and storytelling and documentation and people being able to hold on to original sources, on average, through the amount of wars and natural disasters and bullshit that people go through. That time period, as far back as we should really be able to know anything, that's when this country was founded. So not only is it at this generational precipice, but we as a nation literally don't know anything. Legally, we don't have documentation legally of anything before that period. We were just a rebellious colony. No foundational institutions connecting us back to our heritages. No old source documents telling our governors how to govern, that kind of thing. Just a fresh, clean slate, a nation with amnesia that would become the most powerful nation on earth, and the inventors of the internet. So what do we know? We know there was a civil war. We have differing opinions as to why there was a civil war. And you know, it makes sense to me, and I want it to be about slavery. It's like I want my hair not to do this. Whatever my hair's doing, I want it not to do that. I want the Civil War to be about. I want the North to have defeated slavery. And when you look at some of the movements that had just preceded that in Europe, it makes sense. Kinda. Now, whether the South was willing to fight over slavery, whether it was about slavery to the South, whether they're guilty of that, is not in question. That has to have been one of their motivations. They had, other arguments that they made it about: economics, But when it all comes down to it, the ends is the means. But as far as the North goes, why? Now, we're taught basically that we should feel bad for having had slaves to begin with. When, if you read any documentation of history anywhere, slaves have been normal for a long fucking time. And emancipation of slaves is a uniquely Western thing. But we're supposed to feel bad because we're the only ones who ever took them. No, we're the only ones who ever freed them. Now we're supposed to feel bad for ever having them. Meanwhile, the places that are sending anti-government hysteria, sending militia recruitment shit, trying to get black people turn against their government militarily, violently, comes from countries where slavery is still legal. And, let the record show. It was Muslims who enslaved them, but Muslims who want to turn them against the United States government. But you see, that's the difference between somebody who endures hardship as opposed to takes up the mantle of hardship. When someone endures hardship, they hold on to their empathy. And they can see white people make mistakes just like everybody else. Because you sure as hell got black people enslaving other black people. In some parts of the world, you even have white people enslaving other white people. We used to have that shit here too. It was called the Irish. And if you don't think that hundreds of thousands of Irish were effectively in slavery, I welcome you to read recent history, detailed personal accounts that have been found, compilations of personal journals and letters and shit like that. You see, we can go back into our history and know what we know because the people before us were talking to those people, and the people before that were talking to those people. And at some point, you have things like the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Okay? The one guy that we had as a witness on TV, he was like 96 years old on TV in the early 60s, I think. 50s maybe, I don't know. But he was 5 years old when Lincoln was shot. And he says all he remembers was the guy falling down from the balcony. And he didn't even understand that the president had gotten shot. And he, the old man, before the broadcast, live TV show back then. Had fell down some stairs and got a black eye. And now you might think, even I thought for a second, hold up. When I see somebody interviewed and they look beaten up, I immediately want to be aware of the context to see if they were beaten up because somebody wanted to influence what they would say. And I always keep an eye on them. See if they're twitching, see if they're nervous, see if they got reservations about anything that they're saying. And I can usually tell. This guy, he was just a dumb kid when it happened. He didn't know much. He was just overwhelmed by the pressure. He didn't seem like anything was off. He was old and fucking feeble. He probably fell. He probably falls every other week. He probably falls anytime he goes in an unfamiliar environment. Okay? He was that old and feeble. But you get all these conspiracy theories about the assassination of Lincoln. What you don't realize is that 10 years earlier, he wasn't the last survivor. 10 years before that, he really, you know, and you go back and then you had fucking 30 people that were there. And those people all told their kids, and if the written account didn't match, within that same generation, a bunch of people would have been calling bullshit. Okay, and that's what I mean by this country has its own, you know, path behind them that they can see. Like flying saucers. Flying saucers are real, man. Yep. There was some fucking guy who was trying to patent them. 15, 20 years before any fucking UFO shit ever happened. What was that thing called? It was like the hovercopter or something. It's a dual fan blade thing. He had all different types of specs and schematics. This guy went out of his way to just invent the whole. It was like he was a lot like me, okay? Only a lot more devoted to this, the quality of this presentation he had. He was doing a beautiful job. But he was a sculptor and an architect and an artist and, you know, a very busy-minded guy. So when he invented something, he went crazy and just kept on doing all different aspects and different versions of it, right? Big ones, small ones, short ones, tall ones. Anyways. Need to get this scroll out of my face, because I keep looking up and there's a Babylon 5 documentary. I just watched the TBS special on Babylon 5 behind the scenes. I missed that fucking show, man. And then there's the former maid to Adolf Hitler interview by some channel in Arabic. It's the land of copyright theft. You know, I don't think I've mentioned this, and if I have, it's been a while. But it's no coincidence that the number one source for basically the end of copyright value is YouTube. It's no coincidence that they happen to be so helpful to Russia while being so detrimental to musical and media copyrights. Especially when it comes to actual news broadcasts. It seems like perhaps CBS is a little more vigilant than most. ABC seems to be as well. But they just use MSNBC's copyright striking to A, harass people like me, or kind of like me, a little like me, people who want to actually do fair use commentary on current news stories. And to rotate their side uploader channels. Basically, they couldn't be covering their own asses if they didn't have a statistical printout on the user end that didn't actually show how they got any of the data, okay? That said, here, NBC, this is how many copyright infringements we've stopped for you, okay? They would have to do that, okay? That's like a fucking no-brainer. If you're expecting them to not have that data, you're calling your enemy a moron when it is you who are the moron. And the first thing you need to do when you realize that you've been fooled, and we have been for a long time, is realize, wait, I was a moron. Okay, so I need to just look back on everything and at first assume that I was a moron and then see if I can go from there and prove whether or not I fucking know anything. Okay? That's what this channel's been about. That's why, it's not fucking even monetized anymore. But when it comes to MSNBC's actual uploads, you might notice that they don't really find it worthwhile to upload a whole lot. Okay? And if you look back through their history, it looks like they used to upload a lot more. Well, YouTube seems to me to have been intentionally discouraging them for their bipartisanship, not their left-leaning status. MSNBC is annoyingly neutral. I don't count Trumpists as Christians. And you might occasionally see a priest or something on CNN. But MSNBC has ministers, black ministers, white ministers, Catholic priests, Methodists, but I guess it just doesn't register because they sound like liberals with all their accurate Christianity. Anyway. Oh, fuck. I need to work out. I'm stiff. Boy. I'm tempted to show you my old man exercises. Because I've developed a system of a full body workout that doesn't require me to leave the couch. Because, you know, I see a problem, I invent the solution. And this shit, works for me. I wind up in situations like when I was rescuing the goats yesterday. Was that yesterday? I woke up from my nap and did I rescue some fucking goats? I had to ask my family, did that really happen? I was out there in my pajamas, corralling goats with my Honda Accord, first of all. Yelling at them to the downwind. Get! Back. On one of those little, like how country roads have just a little dirt over a pipe that goes to a property. Well, this was like an uphill little dirt to a pipe that was skittish enough when you weren't trying to corral goats with your fucking Honda Accord. And then I had to pick up the damn fence. Yeah, glad I do my little workout. If I don't do my little workout, well, I'd be hurting if I actually had to do some shit outside. But yeah, exciting times. 15 fucking goats. All different sizes, too. All different sizes. A couple of them were cute. I'm like, hey, can I just, you come with me and keep the weeds around my stairs clear. So I got this guy here. It's a little adjustable. $20 at Academy. I think it was 22. So you get that right there in front of you. You need space on the side of you. Then you get some dumbbells. These are 15s. I really need to up to some 35s. Use 15s for high reps and then 35s to actually, break something. And I'm not going to do my fucking workout on camera, but I'm just going to show you this. You're doing lean back. You have to get to where you can lean back, otherwise this shit ain't gonna work. One arm straight, one arm out. Up like this. So you're doing a curl and a kind of a punching bench press while bike riding. And then if you go like this and just kind of lean both ways, and you get the ab workout too. No excuses. Get in shape. Just do that shit while I'm watching TV. Get tired, put it down. Get bored, fucking scoot it back into place. Anyway. So since I don't have a 35 pound, when I actually do my curls, I'll just hold two of those weights together. my elbow tendons have gotten bad, and as you know, I do have the spine problems. So what I'll do, I'll just rest my elbow right on my knee, do my curls like that. Works just fine. And it seems to be more therapeutic for the tendons in the elbows. You know, like the more often I do that, the less often I am likely to hurt my elbow doing something else. You know, like if I go a long time without doing my exercises, if I go out and try to practice with my sword, I'm gonna fucking hurt my elbow and my wrist and fucking just all kinds of shit will just creak out of place because like the sword moves me. Swords right here for no reason. Such a nice, lovely, bottom-heavy blade. Anyways. Dingo, stop licking your balls. Yeah. Take your pill. Good boy. And it's gone. Blew my neighbor's mind with that shit. Just threw his ass a pill, and he just licks it up off the ground and swallows it. Why don't you go get some water? What? I'm sorry you don't feel good. If there's some type of cold that humans and dogs can catch, apparently that's the one that we have around here. I don't know what the hell's going on. He's sniffly as shit. You can hear that, right? Oh, poor baby. Anyways. So, who's watching? How you doing? Ronald White. The comedian? I don't have any scotch. Last time I saw Ron White was in... Wait, no, it wasn't Uncle Larry's. That's New Orleans. It was the bar in Houston that reminded me of Uncle Larry's. Only fucking bar I ever been to besides the one where I saw Motormouth Jones that had comedians. I didn't see him perform. In fact, I don't want to mention if that was him. I'm pretty sure it was him. Ever since I've seen him as a comedian, I thought it was that motherfucker right there. Exactly how I knew him. But if you knew why I was in a bar at 10 years old, then you probably might already know why I knew him. And lots of other men. mama was a special woman. Dingo! Stop. Yeah, I was just saying we're gonna have one new viewer show up. Because it's been so long. And I was pointing it out how long it's been. And because I was making such a good case of pointing out how long it's been and how statistically bullshit that is, I had assumed that the monitors would assign a new username to pretend to be a new viewer. So, welcome to the channel. So to speak. It's not a question. To those who are versed in the information that I have provided, the answer is obvious. Anyway. Oh, tater salad. You see, apparently in Texas, it is not uncommon to don a name, a nickname, related to some sort of food product. In that respect, I would not be as Ron Tater Salad White is, so I would be Sean Chicken Taco Morris. But my story isn't as badass as Ron White's. In fact, it's the opposite of badassness. It's like the good concave front butt or something. I don't know. What's the opposite of badass? Just rattle that mental image in your head for a while. Just try to figure that out. Concave, front butt. But it's good. Now, is that like, is that implying that it's actually somehow visually appealing, or is it some sort of a superhero? I don't know. What the fuck was I talking about? Oh yeah, front butt. No, but shit. Just gonna drink my coffee. I think I was making some kind of a point. And I got distracted by how stupid my own explanation was. Anyway. It'll come to me. And then I'll hand it a towel. And leave it $200. I mean, wait, what? No. See, I can't hear or say the phrase front butt. Without thinking of one of the dumbest parodies I've ever done. If you remember the Pizza Hut stuffed crust commercial from the early 90s, when the dorky guy was dancing in his own apartment to the tune of stuffed crust. Well, I have this pillow, you see. And if you stuff it in the front of your pants, it becomes front butt. And I sang the song and did the dance with the front butt on, doing the little knee thing for my wife. And I think she actually peed a little. She laughed so hard. Just a little. Just a little. I'm kidding. It was a lot. I'm kidding. She didn't. But she fucking fell the fuck over laughing. It was by far the dumbest shit I've ever done. But anyway, chicken taco. Oh yeah. I can say those words to one of my family members and already have them giggling. And let me just reiterate, this is not the Ron White story. Not badass. Concave front butt. Good. So Ron White, you might know, he pulled over and told a cop, just because he was fucking drunk and stupid, that his fucking nickname. He asked him if he had any other nicknames, and said tater salad, and he wrote down tater salad, and years later he gets pulled over, and the cop asks him, "Are you Ron Tater Salad White?" It's fucking hilarious. Mine, I don't know if it's quite as funny as it is just sad. Which means you probably want to hear it. So, when I was little, I would not respond to my name. Didn't give a fuck about the word Sean. In retrospect, I know why. Wasn't my name. So my family, and I had a big family, and we had a grandmother and cousins, and I think even at one point an aunt and some more cousins living with us. Big house in Alabama. Lived there from when I was like 6 months old, when I was 4. And in this time period, I don't think I remember responding to my name at all until I was 3. And even then, I have more memories of my dreams than I do of cognizance, even though I have a lot of memories of like day-to-day life. I certainly remember my 3rd birthday. The Brio train set that I got, which is a little wooden train series. I kept that for years, and I had always remembered from the train set, you know, like, I don't know, just was able to remember the house, the layout of the upstairs of the house, couldn't remember the layout of the downstairs of the house, remember the outside of the house. Remembered my sister's gigantic fucking dollhouse in the hallway. 3 sisters, all older. And my 3 sisters devised a way to actually get me to, like, come, you know? I wasn't whistling or like, "Here, boy," you know, but they could actually get me to, like, go, "Huh?" and walk towards them and shit. And they showed the rest of my family, and this became the only way, and the way that all of my family called to me. See if I could say this with a straight face. It was a permutation of Michelle, my oldest sister, who took care of me. And I remembered, like, mostly her from back then, as far as interactions with people goes. I remember asking how old she was. She was 12. She used to call me her little chicken taco. And I would giggle. I was a little baby. But it was my younger older sister, the youngest of the older sisters, that actually came up with this thing that could get me to come running from across the room. And it was Sean Bon Boo Boo Bear Chicken Taco G.I. Joe Superman. And they had to say it just like that. Or I didn't give a fuck. I just kept playing with my Legos or whatever. My crack up cars. Oh, I loved it. I would sit there for hours with the little cars, with the little side crack up thing, and just smash them together into a little crack up thing. Maybe that's why I'm so interested in vehicle safety. Huh? Sean Bon Boo Boo Bear Chicken Taco G.I. Joe Superman. And I'd come. But I don't think there will ever come a day when the cops pull me over and say, "Are you Sean Bon Boo Boo Bear Chicken Taco G.I. Joe Superman Morris?" No, no, sir, you have me mistaken for someone else. I am just Sean Chicken Taco Morris. Anyway. Back in the wholesome experience of pre-divorce childhood. I was like a little real white kid and everything. Although, I was never the white kid some of my cousins were. Never liked to hunt. And, well, I liked to ride dirt bikes and four-wheelers. Unfortunately, I could only ride their dirt bikes and four-wheelers because my parents wouldn't buy me that shit. My dad was one of those unique people who managed to have a lot of money while still being a total cheap ass. Which is why he has a condo in Florida now. He spends his time ushering for like events with like famous people and shit. Tampa. Walking on his private beach. Although, you know, since the broadcast is entitled Enlightenment, I guess I shouldn't hold back just because of the new people. But my father is an incarnation of a certain mythical figure. Now, the goddess and I used to just lovingly call him the Weasel. But he's a bit more famous than that. But he, in all of his very firm scientific, calculating skepticism, a man who refers himself as being incapable of faith, even though he says he's a Christian. Like, I am a Christian because I choose to be, but I don't actually have faith because I'm too fucking skeptical. Okay, I respect that, but it's been kind of a hindrance to his full path of redemption, and let's just say the habits of his old spirit have certainly shown through in this life. But in 2011, I first mentioned the connection of who he was. To explain who he was, I have to explain who you think the devil is. Because it's been a long time since he was defeated. Then there was another devil. And when I had redeemed that devil, that you know as Lucifer, I defeated its mother. But then when I set her on her path to redemption, then was revealed the ultimate evil. That is the god of war. Deception itself. But back to Lucifer. Since, well, pride is so passé. Haven't you noticed? Yes, pride itself was cast to earth. Cast to earth. A 1,000 years ago. And oh, had pride consumed the faithful since then. But now where is it? Have you noticed? Can you see it? Can you look back? 10 years, 20 years? $20 is how long it's been since the faithful were proud. Since then, pride has been left to nothing but hypocrites who are wolves in sheep's clothing and, in essence, deceivers. What pride do they really have? Even pride in false religion. Since 2011. Gone by the wayside. Now, I've uploaded the video here. I've uploaded extensive analysis of the video here. I welcome you to go find it in the archive. It should be public still, if YouTube didn't delete it. Because, you know, Satanists don't like me. But whereas Fox News had served to silence true faith, as Fox News ushered in 20 years of blind, deaf ignorance. All the way up until 2011, the Christians argued their case and they had pride. And the hypocrites still claimed to be Christian. The Republicans made, you know, their faith was their mantle, their strategy. Although since Fox News, hollow. But that pride still echoed within them, still seemed to control them. It was one of their most annoying qualities, wasn't it? Now they've found a whole new set of annoying qualities. Battery. Charger. Hold on. I'm gonna not be doing this. Holding the phone. Hold the phone so I don't have to hold the phone. Ow! Shit. Please work. Okay. Cool. Tar went in its case like a good boy. Lucy, Lucy, Lucy. Oh. Howdy, howdy, Mr. Conway. I'll keep the notebook out. Well, that's not the notebook. That's the sketchbook. But I kind of put some notes in there. And I might actually get to those because those are some pretty enlightening things. But for now, we'll just watch the sunrise. Okay. Anyway. Give me 1 second to get resituated and refumigated and reconjugated and stuff. What the fuck was I talking about anyways? Oh yeah. Kids. The bad ones, right? Now, as opposed to the existence of Sean Bon, Boo Boo Bear, Chicken Taco, G.I. Joe, Superman. That's a real thing that happened. That is something that, if you know that, you can just tease me with forever. All right, Chicken Taco. If I'm ever about to whoop your ass, just call me Chicken Taco and you'll... Then again, don't be under any illusions. You'll be broken by it too. You can't call me Chicken Taco and not laugh as well. I'm going to drop that subject. Like, there's some people I'd probably just, continue to giggle while beating the shit out of them. But, anyways. But, I don't know. It might be debatable, actually, whether I was more powerful when I was a little boy. Because the key to true spiritual power is imagination. And that is why the most powerful form of magic is childlike magic. And if you don't believe that, imagine if I turned you into a jack-in-the-box. How would you work your way out of that? That's a riddle Gabriel told me in the Indus Mountains. I didn't like him very much at the time. He was really purposely testing my patience. But he's a good kid. The very best. You might think that was Lucifer, Peter, the piper. But mankind often confuses vanity with glory. What time is it? Holy shit, it's almost 4 a.m. Focus. I was actually doing a little bit of kind of trying to pull out my ancient knowledge. Oh, look. Everybody nice and warm. Got the covers on you. Need a hand? So, I remember like kind of a dream school that overlapped this actual school. And I don't know whether Kira, I called her Maggie at the time, was actually in the school. But I know she was there. So it was like I had dreams during nap time and she'd be there, and there'd be like an alternate version of the school in the dream time where she was. But some of the same shit was there. And one of the things that was there was the finger painting tables. And she would, over and over again, make spirals. Spiral after spiral. And it would make me phase in and out of the beginning of time. It would make me phase in and out of creation and anything resembling reality. Kind of seeing like just flashes of the whole universe, kind of, and all the way back to when it was just the two of us. Nothing but white darkness around. So that spiral, it's sort of the manner in which all reality unfolds. Okay? But that's esoterics. However, when it comes to quantum physics, which I can no longer refer to as particle physics because of the recent theories I've developed, I'm going to stick, and try to extrapolate as many different things as I can based upon the premise of that theory. So I will continue to proceed as if it had been proven in order to, enhance further speculation. And when it all comes down to it, particles haven't actually been proven, which is what my theory argues, basically. So, non-particle physics, or waveform quantum mechanics. Basically, what precedes is a spiral representing perception. So, how light travels through space. Not how does it go, it's a wave going towards you. Like they show like a little light bulb and an eyeball, and they show the wave going towards you. I got something like that. So, where was it? I used it on an icon the other day, didn't I? Like that. Okay. Now, what I was arguing is that light is not, in fact, a particle, but a wave that is perceived as a particle because the act of perception essentially is a grounding of that wave. So, by resolving the wave, it can be perceived as a particle because it resolves at a single point. That point is the point of conduction, just as though the light were an electrical arc. But when you're facing the light, there's a two-dimensional aspect that you can look at it as, and that's what the spiral represents. But when Maggie was drawing the spiral, I saw this complex three-dimensional waveform. And the only way I can really explain it is if you consider one of these lines, the negative or the physics versus fucking electrical engineering pisses me off. The kinetic charge, I'm just going to say kinetic, okay? The kinetic charge, the kinetic wave, let's say wave, all right? Balanced by its inverse potential. That's shown in orange, okay? That stays connected back to it. So, basically, with the absence of time, unfortunately for people who like to finitize the speed of light, this wave is traveling towards you and away from you. But towards you kinetically, only away from you potentially. But this spiral isn't the only spiral. Okay, it's not just this, it's not a particle spiraling outward. It's not a single, like, I mean, that's not how that happens, okay? Nothing to do with redshift or blue shift. Unfortunately, I don't think this could be measured by redshift. Imagine this line, this spiral, facing every single direction all at once, so that this spiral is not a two-dimensional wave, but imagine both of these spirals going opposite of each other, coming towards you almost, and then put those two lines in infinitesimal space. That's how it comes towards you, expanding outward as a wave until it resolves into the point in your eye. And that right there is the first thing ever witnessed. The moment of creation. And that point that was to become an entire universe had all of the awareness of every possible reality as its consciousness. It was to be the goddess, the husk without. I've never been the same since. Like, if you wonder, what point did I start experiencing things linearly? At what point did the power become limited? That's it. It's a long time ago. But if one considers time linearly, then there was more time that ever will exist before time ever existed. And that is how much wisdom she had. All of it. Everything that I was. Sacrificed. For a plan that her soul, in reverse, in all of those possible universes, helped me come up with. Some piece of hair. Why don't y'all groom yourselves? So, In these universes, I guess you could call them, before this universe, you have to consider things completely non-linear, as in linear like the lines of an onion, but all meeting back up to one place. Crisscrossing throughout. Infinite possibilities of existence. I'm telling you from memory. I'm not theorizing or speculating, dear. There's no room for disagreement or debate. This is the nature of reality. If you know anyone else who can bring a physical object back with them from a dream, let me know, and I'll consider their input. Just amusing myself with that one. I still wouldn't be impressed. But anyways, suffice to say, when I speak on this level, I don't like to be interrupted. And most people who wish to hear me speak don't like me to be interrupted. So, consider this time, this universe, these many universes, as existing and not existing. They are essentially the combination of the spirit of God and Goddess. And the moment at which those universes culminate into the creation of this universe by providing the path forward for the birth of all the souls of mankind. That is the point at which God becomes semi-corporeal. And I remember the moment that it happened. Because the moment that it happened, I perceived as having created her. While knowing that we created each other, we had split apart. But I knew my place and she knew hers. And the path forward was for her to make an alternate her. Who did not know her place and did not agree with the path forward. And my place was, as you know, to be in charge of both of them. Yeesh. Two goddesses that I had just created to be more powerful than myself. But there was a space between these universes that even that goddess and all of the universe to come was never made aware of. that is Gabriel's place. You see, in the Garden of Eden, there was a secret underworld. And in that secret underworld, only the goddess and I existed. And in that underworld, we created the first god that would be called God. It was the god of time and death, who I refer to as Gabriel because it gives understanding. But we just called him Terry. And ironically enough, at one point in this or that time, he was very T-Rex-like. And that's just too funny to pass up, you know, Terry the T-Rex. He didn't have tiny arms, though. I don't know where they get the tiny arms from. I do not remember an animal like that from anything other than childhood movies and shit. Oh, really? You think fucking... You think that's an animal? Those are dragon bones. They just ain't showing you the wings. It's a T-Rex and a pterodactyl. They're two separate life forms. Nope. You found your ass a dragon. But, you know, repeat a lie enough times. T-Rex was my favorite fucking animal when I was a little kid, you know. I was like, fucking, get more dinosaur books. I want to learn more about the T-Rex. And then I found the Stegosaurus, and that became my favorite animal, because the Stegosaurus could fucking stab the T-Rex while it was trying to attack. Because it only had little tiny arms. Some fucking predator, right? Like, that is the goofiest looking fucking... Okay. Coming from the guy who invented the platypus, the T-Rex is fucking ridiculous, okay? Anyways. No, I can't get that out of my head, just how dumb that animal looks. I think the only thing that could make that better is if it had a front butt and was doing the little Pizza Hut dance. I think that would be priceless. Yeah, what happens when a T-Rex falls over? How the fuck does a T-Rex sleep? Anything like that? What does it, lean against a tree? Just hangs over a little tiny arm. Oh, we found another T-Rex skeleton. How did it die? It laid down and couldn't get back up. But anyways. Yeah, so, here. Everybody, I'm going to let you see him. Picture the oldest, darkest energy you possibly can. Now picture an amber eye. Now, let that dragon emerge from those shadows. See him? That's Terry. Now, Terry has been incarnated as multiple figures in the Bible, not just Gabriel, the angel of death. Okay, that That is a non-corporeal form. That is a manifestation of the throne of the Almighty, which he was sitting on at the time. Gabriel, Terry, was Abraham, I believe. Yes, yes. He was Simeon, and he was the slain son, Abel. Which is the root of his power, being the first murdered soul. That's why he created the underworld. Well, that's why the underworld's creation was a manifestation of his creation. Properly put. What can I say? I'm more into delegation. Management. Have you ever watched? Since I got new peepers and possibly Zooms. There's a fucking random 80s movie reference. Since I got new people, Conway, being the old person here, I'm gonna have to explain to them the thing that I just forgot about. Damn it. Shit. I got distracted by Peepers and Zoom now. Does anybody remember Peepers and Zoom? I'm gonna feel like a total fucking jackass if nobody remembers Peepers and Zoom. There's like this movie about these little wind-up toys that like saved their owner. I don't know. Conway, where the hell was I? I wasn't talking about T-Rex, fucking Gabriel, fucking covered too many subjects in too small of a time to be able to effectively backtrack after that distraction. What was I just on? If only I could back it up a little bit and play back myself. If only I had like notes and planned a broadcast or something. It ain't coming to me. It's like, what was I talking about? And I just keep on seeing little Peepers and Zoom guys. Oh yeah, Terry in the world. Thank you. And the point of backtracking. Two specific things that I had thought of that are known to you, that are related to that, and they are not Peepers in Zoom. Oh, I guess I'll just start fucking talking. Yeah, exactly. Just gonna move forward. But they were things that will most certainly come up again. But if you're truly seeking enlightenment, you'd backtrack to the previous videos in which they were discussed already anyways. Anyways. So Abraham Simeon, the son of the cattle king of the Central African Plain. Wasn't a stranger to me. Fought by my side for 6 years out of the 13 that I was a mercenary. 13 out of the 18 supposed missing years. And then my lifetime before that. Oh, the legends. Oh, the rumors. Oh, the propaganda. Oh, the false history. Which one is true? Can't say even I remember anymore. Because so much of the history is so fascinating, and I studied it so well in this lifetime. But if you were to say, ask a Mandian, that is one of the 144,000 people clothed in white. I'm not referring to the Book of Revelation per se. I'm just saying that there's 144,000 people clothed in white this day that still consider, and I do mean still, emphasize the word still, consider John the Baptist to have been the true Christ. And if you ask them, they would tell you that Yahya, their new little Arabic word for Johannes, or Jonas, or Jonas, or John, he was someone who reincarnated. And in his previous incarnation was referred to as the Old Father. Now, don't go thinking you know anything about Norse myths or where they came from. You have usurping, theft and transposition, and outright fabrication of religions for political reasons. 2,000 years ago, 2,400 years ago, 3,800 years ago. Pick a time. And where you get Roman mythos from. I was just discussing this. I'm not sure whether it was this channel or the other channel, but just the other day, I was just discussing this. Roman mythos. It was like a New Age movement. Only It's really hard to explain. Basically, there was an old faith that was considered traditional, foundational, but it wasn't something overt, okay? And it was, more considered just to be like fact, but fact that you didn't consider until you were on your deathbed, okay? Like with the halls of your ancestors and where your spirit went and shit like that. It didn't fucking concern you, you know? There wasn't the, foreign intelligence service enhanced need to discuss certain things. Well, in the time that we think of as Caesarian Rome, the reason why there's so much documentation is because there's so much propaganda. And understand this, when you have propaganda before and during a war, what happens when the propagandists ultimately are victorious? What happens to the losers' version of events? What happens to their history? What happens to their culture? Who they were? Everything about them, everything we will ever know about them, is now left up to those who conquered them. So if we know someone conquered someone, it's important to know whether or not the conqueror was employing the use of propaganda, isn't it? Now, like I said, memories are fuzzy because I've studied. And in studied, I've imagined. And in imagining, I've written over what could be memories. And in watching documentaries and romantic extrapolations like the series Rome. Love that. I love that series. Oh, Adia is such a magnificent cunt. Reminds me of Hathor. Like I can't approve, but I have to be entertained. It's like it's just a mixed feeling. But in those stories, no matter how much bullshit, no matter how far removed our perception of things when we read those things is now, if you look at how bullshit unfolds today, you see that bullshit comes itemized based on relevant events. Well, because that's how bullshit always has to happen for it to work, you look back into this story. And you can sort of numeralize or variabilize itemized events and just count them as events. Something either happened or was said to have happened. And that is the only known quantity of that variable. when it was said to have happened, and the situations leading up to it, around it, that all determines the possibilities of that variable, or the ways in which that variable can be extrapolated in relation to other variables. And from that, and from rumor, and from intention, and from result, and ultimately from which way the lines on the map wound up moving, one can at least, while you might not be able to find the truth, you can find that my memory of events make a lot more sense than what you're told. For instance, wasn't it about time for a for instance? Yeah, just sounded right. I guess I have to come up with a for instance now. Shit. No, wait, I have one. I'm just kidding. For instance. Okay. Conway, let's do this. Okay. These aren't the two things I was thinking of earlier, but they'll do. About those 18 years. There's a lot of information that's coming to mind from a lot of different places with known extremely active Soviet propaganda mechanisms. Careful, Icarus. But wouldn't it be nice if, instead of relying on questionable sources that could just be there to make you lose faith, oh my God, it's as if enemies are capable of strategizing. Sorry, I didn't mean to be condescending. I just kind of am. Especially when it comes to the 18 years, because it is terribly obvious once you hear what I'm about to tell you. But let me continue to preface it. Wouldn't it be nice if the story of the 18 years actually made sense, more sense, that is, was able to help us further understand the years that aren't missing? The words in red, the interactions between the Pharisees. I mean, you get the feeling when you read that there's something that you're missing there, isn't it? There's some kind of context that's implied. There's a little bit of a backstory between these chaps. Oh, yeah. Okay. So where should we begin? What is a Galilean? Now, I feel like a broken record, but I'm nice. So instead of making you go and find this information, I'm just going to tell you again. Since 2006 on National Geographic, I don't need to know about little alphabet blocks. Okay? Wait. Just wait. Nothing that you've learned has anything to do with reality. It is the layer of bullshit that is meant to keep you from finding the layer of truth. You see, It's not enough to just bullshit people. You have to put a fake truth there for people who are seeking it, because people are going to notice the bullshit. Now, you're calling your enemy stupid when you think that what you're seeing on Google and all these internet searches over the past 20 years, all this shit about conspiracies and Catholics and all this stuff, you think it has anything to do with anything. The corporate overlords that have given you this shit are not giving themselves away. There's a deeper story that none of you know. And for that reason, hi, I'm here. And if that wasn't the case, frankly, I couldn't be bothered. Believe me, I've got better shit to do. So anyways, sorry. Since 2006, there's been a consensus for no fucking reason. If you haven't been to space, don't talk to me about flat earthers. Anyways. Since 2006, the lovely communist infiltrated, very anti-religious motivated National Geographic Society had published a Learning Channel documentary, I think it was. Maybe it was Discovery. Maybe it was PBS. I don't know. Where they had, through genetic data and anatomic analysis, determined what Jesus really looked like. Yep, that hole on that foot's still there. Yep, that hole on that foot's still there. Okay, just checking. Hole on the side, yeah, that's still there. That's still there. Okay. But what they come up with is a little brown guy with a funny looking little nose and big ears. He was short. Ho, 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 ho. And this has become accepted somehow. Because people don't know things about basic history, apparently. Like, you know, the Greeks and shit. The Romans. Even what you have. What you're supposed to have, you don't even have. But that should be good enough for certain people. That wouldn't be good enough for other people. But what you have all in all should be good enough for everyone, because what you have is also in the Bible. The Jews, that is the Pharisees, said, how can you be the Messiah, the son of David? Aren't you a Galilean and the son of a carpenter? Son of a tradesman, by the way. What's a Galilean? So if the basics of history haven't dawned on you yet, before the Islamic invasion of Palestine and Egypt, there were many different cultures in those areas. There was an intercultural society in Egypt. A guy named John of Alexandria had to do with that, but shh. You'd have to know what a busy little bee I was to understand that. But I've told that story, and I can certainly get into it again. The Bible says Christ is a Galilean. The Jews rejected him because that was not Jewish. That was not of them. You see, it'd be hard to make at that case, at that point, after the captivity and the return, that anybody there wasn't a son of David. So he had to basically not look like he was there. So can we find any basic historical context for that? Yeah, well, I mean, the Greeks lived there. But you know who else went there? Caesar. Because he had dealings with Herod. In fact, it was Augustus who started, according to Roman history, according to the shit that you should have, basically created Galilee. And that's because if you don't realize it, because the brainwashing has worked so well, Romans were Gauls. Gauls were Romans, Romans were Gauls, Gauls were Romans. Caesar wasn't invading shit. He was quelling a rebellion that came from the northeast. And he was there at the request of people even further to the east that had still maintained their lands while these barbarians basically continued to populate in what was before that considered sacred land. Like you had an area around where Prussia is that was what like the Lord of the Rings depicts Ravendale as, okay? And then you had Bavaria, which was inhabited by the same people, and that was a land that was traded with by the Celts, by the Gaels, Gaelic, Gaelic, okay? But all of that land in between, all of that land north of the, north of the Rhine, west of the Rhine, excuse me, in modern directions. Which is weird. That was spiritual domain only. Like you want to talk about the legends of haunted forests That's it, man. And it wasn't a bad thing. For 10,000 years, it wasn't a bad thing. Before time became time as you know it, because man fell so far. Do I look disappointed? I should. I should have just disappointed face all the time. Anyways. So the Northwoods. Were sort of where the stars gathered during the day as wisps. But like I said, that was a world ago. And everyone who came and claimed those woods and found the priestesses and did exactly what you can imagine. Founded a race of people now known as Germanic. Now, I'm mostly genetically German. But from that point, and before this, there was no country there called Germany. There was no Germania until much later. Germania is more of a garrison. Because what you had was an invasion of Scythians. After breeding with the priestesses, their children would become the Vikings. And of course, the Germanics. So if you wonder why there's so much potential for amazing things, yet so much potential for abominable things, on behalf of the German people, that would be why. Because they're a mixture of what you might consider to be old high elves and the bastard usurping conquerors from the north. Later to be known as the Golden Horde, and eventually the White Russians. So anyways, back to Rome. Because it was in Roman times, not the damn near 1,000 years before that, in which Greeks lived in Palestine and Egypt. Real Greeks, not modern Greeks. There's like a very huge, large, distinct genetic difference. Modern Greeks are like mix between Armenians and lots of other people. I mean, it's basically a genetic free-for-all that happened after a cataclysm when a land was abandoned. Okay, that's Greece. I'm pretty sure it wasn't called Greece back then. Like, there was no Greek people, there was no Greece, there was no Greek adjective, and there was no other language word that sounded similar that referred to them as Greek. Ever. It's a modern concoction. It's a modern country, but yeah. Greece doesn't refer to, like, Alexandria, for instance. Anyways, moving on. Romans, time of Christ, Palestine. Herod bribed the Romans with money and land. Including a large body of water that used to have a name in Hebrew. And at the time, it was said that Augustus had dammed it up and created it. So it was ours anyways. But I don't know if that's written in Roman history or not. So when I say that, that's a memory from then. It's not anything I've researched now. But anyways. So Galilee basically became Herod's gift to the Romans. And that's why it became called Galilee. Now Caesar, as in Julius Tiberius Caesar, he had been adopted by a noble Roman family that lived in the south of France. He was a Gaul, and nobody really knows where the hell he was from, but it's said that he was from the north of France. And it was from his understanding of those lands, not just physically, but politically, that he was able to rally troops to his cause in staying unified with Rome, or the basically rebirthing of the Celtic Empire that had been, conquered and scattered for about 1,000 years before that. I mean, just for about a whole solid 1,000 years. But was once a unified, very spiritual land. Oh, crap, it's 5 o'clock already. But anyways, "42 years later, there's a guy who comes back. And he seems to know the local land. He's a Galilean, but he also knows all the Jewish scriptures. So this white guy, a Gaul, okay, filled with fire and prophecy and warning and analysis of the wrongs of the world and society, somehow knows the Pharisees' law. They wondered why that was. Why don't any of you? You see, the first 5 years of those missing 18 years, I wasn't a mercenary. I was still a slave boy. But I wasn't a mercenary. I was owned by the high priest of the temple in Jerusalem. I started out being a scribe's assistant, which basically just meant I brought them water. That's it. Just got water, stood there, held the water till they wanted it, handed them the fucking water. Thought for a second I could remember what exactly led to the transition, if anything. But I learned how to write and eventually became a scribe myself. Just a living human copy machine. And trying to remember what language I was writing. And it seems like it was more likely to be something that resembled Greek than Hebrew, which is interesting. Kind of weird. I would expect Jews in Jerusalem to be writing Hebrew, that's all. Anyway. Dingo. What's the matter, baby? You're a good boy, huh? So, there you have it. Why did they reject him? Because he was a fucking mercenary from Galilee. How did he know the scrolls? Because at one point, mercenaries are too young to be mercenaries. Now then, there's the whole, if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Spoken by someone who knew their fate. That implies he lived by the sword. And if you don't believe that, ask yourself how it's possible that one man with a whip managed to basically sack a Roman-occupied temple in the middle of a highly populated city. He'd have to be some sort of a badass. So, not just a mercenary, but one who survived till retirement. Although that was kind of short-lived. Yeah, I'm just going to go settle down where my parents lived. Oh. Oh. This is how people are now, here. I'm just going to go live in the fucking woods for a while. And people found me. Dingo, stop licking your balls. Oh my God. Really? You motherfucker? They must be delicious. I don't know. Ah, my neck. Hush. Anyways. Oh yeah, I was remembering something. So, the way you see Palestine in the movies about the time of Christ only serves to eliminate any chance of genetic memory telling you any different. Because they show a barren, desolate land. They show a land 1,000 years after it was burned and sulfured, and then neglected and ignored for another 1,000 years. The Europeans never took interest in Palestine until others took interest in Palestine. Once Europe had become Europe or whatever. But you might look back and see the pesky little counterattacks we call crusades. They didn't happen until a long while later. No need for any of that. There was just people in their families' lands, and there was fighting here and there, and talking here and there, and the usual. But after the Roman Civil War, the whole of the South was more or less left to its own devices. Now, the people who had instigated the Roman Civil War the Pharisees just reminded me of them. And it was, in my opinion, no coincidence of them and Herod's involvement. But in the South, what people call Egypt now, you didn't refer to Sudan as a country. Sudan was the region, and countries weren't an item. Like, places were referred to by cities. It was the city. Like, it'd be say Cairo, for instance. Like, it'd be Cairo of the Sudan. Or what are some cities that they have in the north and the south, you know? And if it was the city that was in the north, it'd be, you know, Magog of Nodan, as opposed to Magog of Sudan, or Magog of Media. Now I'm thinking of the misplacement of Midianites as an individual tribe in history. Okay. Anyways. Getting a little tired, and it's about time to wrap up, whether I'm at a good stopping point or not. I never got to that stuff I wrote in my notebook, so I guess that's going to have to wait for another time. But anyways. What was formed as a result of a rebellion in my 6th year as a mercenary. Let's see, 4th year, made captain. 5th year, I had all but technically won my freedom. 6th year. I hadn't been paid in 5. Now, when you were deployed by Rome as a mercenary, it's not really what you think. It's not, go kill those people, then come back and I'll give you money. Okay? That's modern mercenary shit, I suppose. Movie mercenary shit, at least. Mercenaries usually wind up like mall security guards in Roman times. Yep, that's it. Depending on where you're stationed, naturally. Now, you have, oh, wow, why are these Borderlands, Hinterlands, Fatherlands, Fertilands. Every different one is a different pay grade. Every different one is a different level of excitement. But if it was, say, the borderlands of Nadan, especially in Germania, oh, and yes, by then that was a thing. But like I said, more of a overglorified garrison. Ah. So anyways, it was supposed to be 7 years. And if you were at one of those posts for 7 years, you became a citizen, you could join the proper Roman military, you could become an officer, you could get land. But it was in the 6th year we were supposed to have heard of our payments being set aside by the Senate, and like it was kind of like hearing in politics, if you're a government employee, of a government shutdown, you know? People talking about playing with the budget, not paying the mercenaries, saying that the local people should pay them. And the guy I was working for tried to use that to turn me against his father. who, technically, according to his argument at least, should be the one to pay me, right? He had a better idea. He wanted me to help him kill his father. The spirit of injustice has always dawned on me differently than it does most people, I suppose. I don't think because I've suffered injustice, I should act unjustly. You know? Blue lights are coming on in the fish tanks. Oh, and the Kenya tree is standing back up. That's good. I guess it got over its cold. Oh, shit. Okay. That was not according to plan. Smashed the tip off of my cherry. Anyways. So what I was saying earlier, I'm just kind of analyzing myself just now, reminded me of it. If you have past lives and you try to remember them and you wind up remembering history, you're going about it the wrong way. Instead of trying to remember facts, you start with trying to remember emotions. Because one thing I've noticed is that it winds up being the feelings that I remember that guide me to the details, you know? I mean, doesn't that seem to be how it's happening? I'm just staring at my fish tank, talking. Oh, fish tanks. Looking at Smurfette twitching in the grass. Looking at the orange money glowing in the blue light. But that guy's father, I remember him being wise. I remember, like, I feel about him like he was like a father figure. And from that feeling, I remember what it was he counseled me on that gave him such a status. And it was what the hell I should do about it. And in return, what the hell my men should do about it, his men should do about it. And by my men, I mean his son's former men. And by former, I mean I killed that slimy little fucking turd. Oh, shit. I'm trying to remember one incident in which, like, I just fucking stabbed somebody through the fucking skull. That was more satisfying or justified or... Like, I'd been in a lot of battles. I have been in a lot of battles. But I don't recall a time where I just killed a motherfucker because it had to be done. I think that's the only time ever. For me, anyways. I remember the shape of the dagger. Letter opener. Pretty sure it was his. Pretty sure he annoyed me with it. He would slowly saw couldn't put forth the effort to sharpen his own fucking letter opener. Dull knives don't cut silk very well. He'd see me watching him. Say, "Here." And I'd try to pull out my own knife. And he would say, "With my knife." And he would hand it to me the wrong way. So when I stabbed him, I don't know if I said it or if I just thought it, but I was like, if you would have sharpened the fucking thing, you probably wouldn't have even felt that. That's all she wrote. I already had permission from the elder. But suffice to say, that act and rumor of it was my number one recruiting tool. Father tried to betray his son. The fucking slave rose up and slew him to be rewarded by the father. That was the story. Pretty much how it went. So we went to try to get our money. It was like fucking Braveheart. Just trying to get to Rome. Ugh. Dingo. Anyways. Seeing what the last chat was, and I might have missed it while I was staring off into space. Dingo's got so many fucking tumors, I don't even know what anymore. Dingo. Don't chew that. Anyways. Coffee? You gonna make coffee? On my last few sips and shit. Need a nice fresh piping hot pot. Yeah, they wind up being good for something. This one likes going to her mom's new work after school. And today I had to pick her up because she's at Beta Club. She was upset, so I was gonna bring her back to the house. So I had to drive across town in the middle of fucking traffic just to save myself the earful. But anyways, I was in my accord, so it wasn't, it wasn't taxing. It was really just enough traffic to keep me, hidden from radar. For the most part, I'm kidding. I didn't speed that much the whole time. Not consistently. I might have taken a little too long to get out of first a couple times, but You know, that's just how my car works. It's just how my car works. But anyways, back in Galilee, three to 5 years later, I thought, great place to, it's kind of like Florida. You know, beautiful place between two big bodies of water. Oh, kidding. Oh. Yes. What? What is it? What are you looking at? Oh, okay. Hi. Just lay on my face, why don't you? Alright. Okay, now the kitten is gone. So my retirement plans in Galilee, I wasn't that old yet. I was trying to establish kind of a networking outpost, if you will, for business. Because after not getting paid and a long journey through Africa that I've detailed out before, going towards Simeon's hometown and then back up the Nile. Me and my little group of outcast mercenaries who should be citizens, who should be rich, should at least have some fucking money by then. We parked our boat and started entertaining people. Because in Rome, like, gladiators weren't just slaves. There was a lot of different gladiatorial events, okay? And, like, combat theatrics, I don't know how to explain it. It was as much a part of the entertainment as, like, movies and football combined. Really, movies and rock and roll concerts and football combined. So I just can't tell you how natural it was for us to try to make money this way. But that's how it all got started. The college at Alexandria. And I guess that makes me Spartacus, but I wasn't from fucking Sparta. I think I'd been to Sparta. Wasn't from there. Spartacus. Maybe that's some sort of code that they use to signify the threat to the Scythian Empire. Like Leonardo da Vinci. Or... No, not Jesus Christ. Jesus is a proper name because it's a spiritually clean entitlement, meaning that by saying I am in a language that wasn't theirs, but the language of the Messiah at the time, they were able to call upon God without committing blasphemy in their own language. But I'm sitting there thinking, see, the Jews wouldn't be allowed to say Hashem, they'd say Abi, right? But then that kind of also leads you to you know what you already have. That calling God the Father is proper, and thinking of God as a parent is proper. And that you should call no man upon the earth Father or Rabbi. Only your Father in heaven. Anyways, so the little boat that could. And we bought a bigger boat. Then we built our own boat. So there was this like ruin out on the delta, okay? And kind of like the way I design things now, like big, like docking, floating structures mixed with dock structures and stuff like that. We had made like a little pirate's base on these ruins. But it was a theater, okay, at first. But see, from the theater, the entire time, we had effectively organized a resistance. Because there were travelers from a whole lot of different places still came through there. And there were plenty, and recognizable too, old Roman mercenaries, not quite wandering around going, what the fuck, but who went to different cities to kind of investigate things, because the politics of the time were, incomprehensible, really. Yeah. Nobody then really knew what the fuck was going on in the rest of the world. They just known, big fucking armies had been killing each other for a while, basically. And they knew about the rebellion in Rome. And "20 years after a civil war, I think, people were afraid of the Scythians coming back down. The Parthians in particular, Persians in particular. Oh shit, I gotta go. Oh, man. So, the theater became eventually overtly a resistance center that was basically educational. Okay. Secretly still the actual resistance center. But, anyways, I've told the rest of this story. But, I think I can remember more of it now. Anyways, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, thanks for hanging out, thanks for chatting, and, we're still in the doghouse till tomorrow evening, just in case anybody's wondering. But hopefully somebody or something will come through today and we can have some, like, juice to drink and shit. I was having such a sugar craving, my fucking hands were shaking. The only thing we got in the house is milk. So my ass had some chocolate milk. That's the last thing I've had. That was at about 4 p.m. yesterday. Anyways, I need to lower my standards and eat some of this random granular shit from the food bank. None of it looks appetizing at all, but like it just sits there. There's popcorn. The kids can have the popcorn. My wife can eat the popcorn. I can't eat popcorn because of my teeth. I eat like pancakes, biscuits, bland, boring shit. It's easy on my stomach. 5 jars of red sauce, 2 cans of Beanie Weenies, and a bunch of bag of popcorn. That's just making my stomach turn thinking about it. Alright, I'm going to stop being a bitch. Wah, wah, wah. Anyways, at least I got cigarettes to smoke. And, you know, I have y'all to thank for that. And that random state check just came in with the $23. That was a hell of a good coincidence. Anyways, thanks again. Don't forget to click the like button. And make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already. Y'all take it easy. Don't take it all. Peace.